The plane hummed steadily as it pierced through the dark sky, somewhere above the Atlantic Ocean. Leona Ward sat in her usual aisle seat, 3A, business class, with a calm that only came from years of international travel. Her tablet was open, her presentation notes neatly highlighted. In just 8 hours, she would land in New York to finalize a deal worth more than $800 million, the largest in her company's history. She sipped her tea, glanced at the window, and smiled faintly at the stars scattered across the ocean of clouds. Then her phone buzzed. She expected a calendar update, maybe a message from her assistant. Instead, the screen showed a single line that made her heart stop. Your role at Titan Edge Logistics has been terminated. Effective immediately. Do not proceed with further meetings. For a second, she didn't move. She read the message again. Then again. The cabin around her went on as normal. Clinking glasses, whispered conversations, flight attendants offering wine. But Leona's world had just tilted on its axis. Her fingers went cold. She had spent the last 9 months flying across continents: Japan, Germany, South Korea, Dubai, building a fragile web of trust, respect, and long-term vision. She had learned to greet in 5 languages, sat through dozens of midnight calls, and negotiated through more cultural barriers than most people could even name. And now? Fired. Mid-flight. No warning. No meeting. No voice behind the decision. Just an email. She stared at the screen, numb. The face behind this betrayal was clear: Graham Pierce, the interim CEO, a man more interested in headlines than hard work. He was smooth, well-dressed, always smiling. But Leona had always seen through the polish. She was a threat to his quiet ambition. Her name was starting to appear in too many articles. Her success, once celebrated, had started making people like Graham nervous. And now, he had removed her the easiest way possible, when she was too far away to protest. She placed her phone face down on the tray table. Her reflection in the window stared back at her, calm, still, but burning inside. She could feel it rising. Not rage, not panic, clarity. He thought this would silence her, that she'd crumble, that she'd disappear quietly while he stood in front of flashing cameras, taking credit for her work. But Graham Pierce had made one fatal mistake. The people Leona had been working with for the past year, they didn't trust Titan Edge. They trusted her, and they were about to find out the truth. She took a deep breath, and then, with the soft chime of the cabin lights dimming, she reached for her notepad. The plane had 6 hours left in the air, and that was all the time she needed to plan what came next. The wheels touched down at JFK just after sunrise. A pale orange glow stretched over the city skyline, but Leona Ward didn't even glance out the window. She didn't feel the usual rush of landing. No anticipation. No purpose. She was no longer welcome here. Not as a representative of Titan Edge. Not as a deal maker. Not even as an employee. The moment she stepped off the jet bridge, her company access vanished. No driver waiting. No assistant update. When she tried to open the Titan Edge scheduling app, it crashed. Her badge app read, "Access denied." In just one night, she had become a ghost. Leona booked her own car to the hotel Titan Edge had reserved for her. She knew the room would still be under her name. The HR department probably hadn't caught up with the logistics team yet. She checked in quietly, declined help with her luggage, and went straight up to the 15th floor. As the elevator climbed, she stared at her reflection in the metal doors. Calm, composed, but inside, her thoughts were razor-sharp. Graham Pierce. The name sat bitter on her tongue. 6 weeks ago, he had slid into the interim CEO seat after Charles Dorman, the man who had hired Leona, suffered a sudden heart attack. Charles had believed in people. In her. He gave her autonomy to lead Titan Edge's international growth because he knew relationship building wasn't about spreadsheets. It was about human instinct. But Graham didn't believe in relationships. He believed in optics. He saw Leona's success as a liability, a spotlight he couldn't control. So, while she was closing the final loop on the $800 million East-West shipping alliance, Graham had been repositioning the chessboard behind closed doors. And last night, 37,000 feet above the Atlantic, he'd made his move. In the hotel room, Leona sat at the desk overlooking the city, and opened her laptop. Not Titan Edge's, her own. Encrypted. Private. Safe. She didn't write a resignation letter. Didn't call HR. Instead, she began writing a list. 3 names. 3 people. Each name represented a global alliance she had personally nurtured over the last year. Not just clients. Partners. Takahiro Sato, CEO of Shinkai Shipping Group in Japan. Marta Klein, Director of European Logistics at Corelink Berlin. Zubair Al-Fayed, Logistics Visionary in Dubai's trade sector. Each of them had trusted her, not the logo on her business card. And now, they deserved to hear the truth. Not anger. Not gossip. Just facts. She reached for her phone, paused, then opened the first message draft. Subject: a personal note regarding our partnership. Dear Mr. Sato, I hope this message finds you well. I'm reaching out to inform you of an unexpected development. As of today, I am no longer affiliated with Titan Edge Logistics. I wanted you to hear it directly from me, not through a forwarded press release or an unfamiliar voice in tomorrow's meeting. I remain deeply grateful for the trust and time you have invested over the past year. Please don't hesitate to reach out directly. With respect, Leona Ward. She didn't dramatize it. She didn't beg. Just truth. Clean and precise, like a scalpel. When she hit send, a strange calm washed over her. This wasn't surrender. It was the first quiet slice in a much larger reckoning. By the time Leona finished her second message, the sky had shifted to a steely gray. Rain tapped softly against the hotel window. The city below was alive. Honking taxis, brisk walkers, flashing traffic lights. But inside room 1508, time was moving differently. Slow, focused, precise. She hadn't eaten, hadn't changed out of her travel clothes. Her blazer still smelled faintly of airplane air and jet fuel. But none of that mattered, because at that very moment, Mr. Takahiro Sato was reading her email in a quiet corner of his Tokyo office. And when her phone rang, his number lighting up the screen, she didn't hesitate. She answered on the first ring. Ward-san, his voice came, polite but unusually tight. I received your message. Thank you for calling, she replied evenly. There was a long silence. She didn't fill it. Then, they removed you mid-negotiation? Yes, she said calmly. Via email. While I was en route to our signing meeting. Another pause. Then something in his voice hardened. This is not business, he said. This is insult. Leona didn't agree or argue. She let him speak. You and I discussed trust, Mr. Sato continued. You listened. You understood our timelines, our risks, our vision. Titan Edge did not. They only showed up after you built the bridge. She could feel it, the moment his decision was made. I will speak with my board, he said. But I believe we must formally withdraw. Her voice didn't waver. I understand, Mr. Sato. You built this relationship, he added, softer now. If you build something new, let me know. When the call ended, Leona sat for a moment, hands folded in her lap. One domino. Down. She didn't wait. Next was Marta Klein. Berlin was 6 hours ahead. Marta was likely sipping her first espresso, scanning reports in her minimalist office that overlooked the Spree River. Leona had once spent an entire week there just to understand how European regulatory cycles aligned with shipping tariffs. Marta had noticed. She had called Leona the only person from Titan Edge who listens before speaking. This conversation would not be easy. She dialed. The line clicked after 3 rings. Leona. Marta's voice was surprised, but warm. Hi, Marta, Leona said gently. I wish this call were under different circumstances. A pause. Then, something happened. Leona explained it in clear, respectful terms. No bitterness, no spin. When she finished, Marta went quiet. Do they think this deal was built on paper? She asked, her German accent sharper than usual. We invited you into our boardroom, our systems, even my home. My children know your name. Leona's throat tightened. I'm sorry, Marta. No, Marta snapped. You have nothing to be sorry for. They do. Then she sighed. It was long, tired, but resolute. I'll draft a formal withdrawal by this evening, she said. Effective immediately. I'll cite loss of primary liaison and breach of communication protocol. That should cover it legally. You don't have to. Yes, Marta cut her off. I do. We signed with you. Not a brand. Before hanging up, Marta said something Leona would carry for a long time. Business is numbers. But trust? That's blood. And they've spilled it. Leona sat in silence. The city outside rushed on. But in that hotel room, the tide had already turned. 2 calls. 2 lost deals for Titan Edge. And one woman sitting quietly at a desk. Not with revenge in her heart, but with something far more dangerous. Clarity. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. At exactly 8:46 a.m. New York time, the first withdrawal notice hit Titan Edge Logistics executive inbox. Subject line: Formal termination of negotiation, Shinkai Shipping Group. 3 minutes later, the second one arrived. Partnership withdrawal, CoreLink Europe, Berlin. The executive floor went quiet. A third assistant peeked into the boardroom, where Graham Pierce stood polishing a speech for the press conference scheduled that afternoon. Cameras were booked. The contract was supposed to be Titan Edge's biggest international win in a decade. Instead, the conference room printer was now spitting out the collapse, line by line. Back in her hotel room, Leona stood by the window, arms folded, watching the morning fog lift from the skyline. She hadn't slept. She didn't need to. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Charlotte, North Carolina. She let it ring 4 times before answering. Leona, what the hell is happening? It was Graham Pierce. No assistant. No pleasantries. Good morning, she said coolly. Is there something I can help you with? I've just received 2 withdrawal notices from Tokyo and Berlin, he snapped. They're claiming a loss of liaison? Contract disruption? Did you? I told them the truth, she said, cutting him off. What truth? That I was terminated mid-flight, during active negotiations, with no explanation or transition. That Titan Edge removed the person they had been working with for nearly a year, without warning, without courtesy. Graham's voice turned sharp, desperate. You just cost this company nearly $1 billion. No, Graham. Leona replied, steady and measured. You did. Inside Titan Edge, chaos spread. The legal department scrambled to contain breach of contract language. The marketing team canceled press statements. Someone from finance reportedly cried in the hallway. The board was notified within the hour. By 10:15 a.m., an emergency meeting had been scheduled. Graham walked in flanked by 2 executives and left, 47 minutes later, alone, white-faced, holding a cardboard box and avoiding eye contact with anyone. Security didn't even make it dramatic. They simply escorted him down the elevator in silence. Later that afternoon, Leona sat in a quiet cafe across from Central Park, her blazer draped over the back of her chair. She watched pigeons gather near the trees, letting the soft hum of the city wash over her. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was Charles Dorman, the original CEO, now slowly recovering from his heart attack. Leona, he said, voice gravelly but full of emotion. I had no idea what Graham was planning. I'm furious. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she looked out the window, then said softly, I didn't break anything, Charles. I just stepped away and let people see who they were really dealing with. He sighed. The board is considering legal action against Graham. It's a mess. Everything you built. It's not lost, she interrupted. Just no longer theirs. Charles hesitated. Would you consider coming back? I could fix this. Leona smiled, not with joy, but with understanding. I already have a new offer, she said. One that sees me, respects the work, and the people behind it. That evening, Titan Edge stock dipped for the first time in 5 quarters. By morning, 3 more international clients had paused negotiations. The foundation was cracking, and all Leona had done was tell the truth. Not loudly, not bitterly, just clearly. 2 weeks later, the elevator doors opened onto the 41st floor of Viridian Global Freight, Titan Edge's fiercest competitor. Leona stepped into the executive suite, calm and collected, wearing a charcoal gray suit and a quiet confidence that couldn't be bought. At the end of the hallway, Arjun Malik, Viridian CEO, stood waiting. He extended a hand, smiling. Welcome aboard, Leona. Or should I say, welcome home. They shook hands. No flashbulbs. No press. Just mutual respect, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Her new title, Executive Director of Global Partnerships. Her new mission, to lead Viridian's expansion into markets that Titan Edge had failed to reach for years. But Leona didn't come empty-handed. In her first week, she held 3 private calls, not sales pitches, not corporate invites, but genuine conversations. The kind that start with respect and end with trust. Mr. Sato, who had already scheduled a visit to Viridian's Tokyo office. Marta Klein, who'd sent her a bouquet of blue tulips with a handwritten note. Let's continue what we started, this time for people who deserve it. And a surprise message from Zubair Al-Fayed in Dubai, who had never signed with Titan Edge, but now wanted to talk. Inside Viridian's sleek conference room, Leona stood before a wall of live dashboards. Markets, ports, forecasts. But her attention was on the people in the room. A small, hand-picked team ready to move fast, smart, and ethically. I don't need grand strategies, she told them. I need relationships. The kind that don't break when leadership changes or inboxes get crowded. Business that breathes. That listens. That lasts. Heads nodded. Not out of obligation, but belief. Her first major trip under the Viridian banner took her to Dubai. There, in a rooftop lounge lit by gold lanterns and desert wind, she met Zubair, a logistics magnate with sharp eyes and a soft voice. I never signed with Titan Edge, he told her, because they never made me feel seen. Leona smiled. Then let's build something where that never happens again. They clinked glasses. No contracts were signed that night. Just trust, planted like a seed. By the end of her first month, Leona had secured 3 strategic partnerships and reopened 5 more. Titan Edge, meanwhile, was still fielding questions from shareholders and scrambling to explain why their most promising deals had vanished overnight. But Leona didn't watch the headlines. She was busy writing new ones, not in bold fonts or press releases, but in handshakes, late-night calls, and quiet promises that actually meant something. She hadn't just found a new seat at the table. She had helped build a better one. And the people she invited to sit beside her, they were already walking through the door. The moment the wheels touched down in Singapore, Leona felt it. That unmistakable shift in energy when possibility hangs thick in the air. It was her 3rd country in 8 days. And yet, every handshake, every meeting, every conversation carried something Titan Edge had forgotten how to value. Presence. She wasn't here to flash numbers or drop buzzwords. She was here to listen. Inside a quiet boardroom at Harborline Southeast, the mood was cautious. The executives were polite but skeptical. Leona had been warned. The company had turned down Titan Edge 3 times before. The regional director, a serious man named Mr. Tan, leaned forward. We've seen this pitch before, he said. Why would it be different now? Leona met his gaze. Because I'm not here to pitch, she said calmly. I'm here to understand. Your priorities, your challenges, your rhythm. And if we can help, we'll do it together. If not, I'll walk away without wasting your time. The room went still. Mr. Tan blinked. Then, slowly, he smiled. Over the next 2 hours, Leona didn't dominate the meeting. She asked questions. She listened. She clarified. By the end, the tone had completely shifted. As they stood to leave, Mr. Tan said softly, We don't usually move fast. Leona nodded. Neither do strong partnerships. They grow. He paused, then extended his hand. But I think this one's already rooted. From Singapore, she flew to Frankfurt, where Marta Klein had arranged a quiet gathering of European partners who had once refused to sit at the same table. They came because Leona asked. They stayed because she made it feel like more than business. During the roundtable, she spoke not of contracts, but consistency. Trust isn't a logo. It's not a number in a quarterly report. It's a call returned. A problem solved before it becomes public. It's remembering the name of someone's child when the margins are thin. Marta watched her speak, arms crossed but eyes shining. When the session ended, she whispered to a colleague. She's changing the language of this entire sector. Within 2 months, Viridian's Global Partnership Division had signed 5 of the industry's most elusive accounts. Not because they offered the lowest rates, but because they sent Leona Ward. and Leona brought something most companies didn't even know how to measure: respect. And in a quiet moment, back in her office overlooking the Hudson, she reviewed a new report. Revenue projections, up 38%. Global satisfaction score, highest in company history. New inquiries from Brazil, South Africa, and Istanbul. Veridian was no longer a challenger brand. It was the brand. And at the center of it all, not a CEO, not a marketing campaign, but a woman who had once been fired mid-flight and who now moved with the kind of authority that only comes from being undeniably trusted. 6 months later, the morning headlines told a story louder than any speech ever could. Titan Edge reports $1.1 billion loss after global partnership failures. Executive team reshuffled following international collapse. Veridian surges ahead, sets record growth in global freight sector. Leona Ward read the headlines without reacting. She was standing in the glass lobby of Veridian's new international headquarters, a fresh coffee in her hand, her ID badge reflecting the morning light. Behind her, the reception screen cycled through press clips, industry praise, and global partner logos: Japan, Germany, Singapore, Brazil. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply watched. Just then, Marta Klein stepped off the elevator, greeting her with a knowing nod. "You've seen the news?" Leona nodded. "I've lived it." Marta chuckled. "They're teaching Titan's collapse in business schools now. One professor in Berlin even coined a term for it: piercing your own company." Leona raised an eyebrow. "Fitting." Then came Mr. Sato, freshly arrived from Tokyo, adjusting his cufflinks as he approached. "Your schedule today is full," he said, always to the point. "But your partners insisted on celebrating this milestone together." She followed them into the conference room, her partners, her team, her rebuilt future, and saw something on the table. A small, black velvet box. Inside, a silver pin shaped like a compass. Marta smiled. For the one who never lost direction. Leona held it gently, not because of the metal, but because of what it meant. She had been fired without a meeting, discarded without a conversation, and yet, without raising her voice. She had changed the direction of an entire industry. Later that day, she received a call. Charles Dorman, the original CEO of Titan Edge, the one who had believed in her once. His voice was heavy with regret. "Leona, what Graham did, it was short-sighted. The board knows that now. We're offering you a full return. Chief International Officer. Highest salary in company history. Public apology. Anything you want." She paused, not out of anger, but clarity. "I'm happy where I am, Charles." He hesitated. "Could Veridian perhaps consult for us? Help us rebuild what we lost?" Her voice was calm. "We could, but it won't be cheap." "How much?" $6 million per quarter. 2-year minimum. And one condition." "What's that?" "You listen this time." The line went quiet. Then Charles sighed. "I'll take it to the board." He never called back. And that was fine. Because Leona didn't need revenge. She had built something better, something no one could take. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the Manhattan skyline, Leona stood in her 42nd floor office, looking down at the city that once tried to forget her. Behind her, on the glass wall, a new quote had been etched by her team. "Sometimes the most powerful crown is the one you never ask for." And in that moment, Leona finally smiled. Not because she had won, but because she had never stopped belonging. Enjoyed the story? Give it a like and let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. More powerful stories are just around the corner.